Hey, what can I say, Tessa? The hair goat, he's got his own opinion, can't be swayed by gold medals or anything else. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
You know what? Just stupor. It's this whole experience I was telling you before has been amazing for me. To try to combine having fun with mental health chat is something that I kind of always dreamed of doing. So now I get the chance, and I get the chance to connect with friends from the past, and you would be one of those. So you're doing well. You're in Vancouver. Are the people that you care about most in the world, are they healthy at this point?
Yeah, everyone in my sphere seems to be holding up okay. I mean, like everyone else, it's a strange and scary time that can be really isolating for a lot of people. So we're doing our best to stay connected, and everyone is healthy. And you're right, that's number one priority. How about you? How are things in your world, Michael?
You know what? We're all good. I was telling you before that my dad was in the hospital for a couple of days, not for COVID, but he wasn't that sick when he went in. But we're all going, oh my God, he's 89 years old. He's going into a hospital where all of this virus exists. He's going in healthy, but he's who knows? But he's fine. He's good. So thank you for asking. So let's talk about your mental health at this point. There's a way to refer to it. It's kind of like this pandemic of anxiety that people are having because of this isolation, forced isolation, and because of the economy, and because of the fears. When is it going to end? Uh, how are you doing with that?
I think, I oscillate because in some moments I try and reframe it and be positive and find purpose and fulfillment, but in other ways it's just overwhelmingly daunting. And when all of the news cycle, whether that's on TV or Twitter, it's just so negative, and it's terrifying, and there are so many unknowns, so much uncertainty. I think that can be crippling. So it's a roller coaster, and I know that most other people could relate. And I think if there was an end date, we could all sort of wrap our heads around that and have something to work towards. But it's not being able to plan is also really difficult.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the unknown is always scary in
Right.
almost any context. And sometimes the unknown is exciting. I don't think anyone's finding this particularly exciting. But am I right that you studied psychology in school?
Right. Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to sit back and you can use all of the psychology that you learned in school. Now, I took psychology too. Didn't go that well. And I'm pretty aware of the fact that doesn't really qualify you for much. But having said that, what advice would you give to people based on your own life? Not so much studying in school, but how you've learned to cope through this.
Well, I personally am such a task-oriented person, and I get validation and satisfaction when I feel like I'm accomplishing something. So I try and set a goal or an intention each day. And I've had to sort of reconcile the fact that it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be monumental. If it's cleaning the kitchen or organizing a closet or writing someone a letter, connecting with someone who might need that, that has really helped because it gives purpose. And I think, we all need that. And also I'm trying to curate the way that I consume news and consume media. So, we talked about all that negativity, and there is also so much kindness and so many good things happening. Friends at home are doing so much to help their neighbors, and for our elders, and so
One
I try
sec,
to have
Tessa.
each day.
Get off my property. Sorry. Neighbors. Oh my God.
Right.
They think that there's no rules anymore. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
I just think there's a way of trying to find the light, and yeah, I mean, and also shows like this, what you're giving to people, it's making everyone feel understood and valued, and maybe not so alone.
that word you just used, feeling understood, like I didn't, it's not like I planted that in your head, or it's not like we talked about it, but that word is so huge for people with more serious mental illness than situational mental illness, which can be really frightening at this point, but not the same as having, long-term depression, for instance. And the ability to make someone feel like oh my gosh, someone understands what's going on in my head is huge. I want to ask you. I'm going to take a brief time out for Sean Cullen because he's done a song just for you. But I want to ask you what your experience is with mental health or mental illness, and whether it's you or someone that you've cared about. So you'll still be on. So we'll see your reactions to Sean Cullen, who has done this ballad for you, Tessa Virtue.
Oh, Tessa Virtue, I don't want to hurt you. You're such a great skater. Would you meet me later? I know we're under quarantine in a time with a virus obscene, but I think we could have been greatest duo ever. Let's go get a lawyer, get rid of Scott Moyer. I could be your skating pal, and we could be winners. I could lift you over my head for a short period of time, then we could skate around. Oh, it would be fine. I look bad in tights, and you have your rights.
Okay, the second half of that, the exciting conclusion of Sean Cullen coming up at the end of the show. I mean, people got to stay tuned to find out how that story ends.
The suspense.
Yeah.
I particularly enjoyed how he clarified that he could lift me over his head for a short period of time.
For a short period of time. Sean Cullen is like, he does a song for us every day. He's a very accomplished guy. He's written 3 books. He's written all kinds of awards, Gemini Awards and Canadian Screen Awards. Great on stand-up, but like everybody else, he's looking for a way to spend his time, but also a way to make an impact on people. So now that we're feeling relaxed and valued, let me ask you the question that I asked you in advance, if it was okay, and that is, have you been touched by mental illness, either personally or through somebody that you care about?
I haven't personally, Michael, but of course, I think we all have someone in our lives who has been touched by mental illness, and I've seen up close and personal friends who have battled anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and it's tough. I think, on that continuum of emotions, that I've had lows. Certainly, I've had times of feeling really alone, and I can only imagine what that is like magnified. I try and wrap my head around what that feels like and what kind of support people need. And it's important to have conversations just like this, because the fear of reaching out, because of so many, that stigma that exists around mental health is really pervasive. But we need to be able to be open and share our vulnerabilities and realize that I think everyone faces self-doubt, faces, a lot of stress and anxiety. It's something that we all have to sort of strategize to cope with.
People, when they hear that you said that sometimes you felt really alone, would go, well, how does, one of the most famous people in the world of sport, and you truly are, like what you do is worldwide, right? It's not like figure skating is strictly in Canada. There's countries where it's even bigger than it is in Canada. So how could someone with that kind of success, and I know that this is, I don't believe this to be true, but this is how people think, how would you feel alone?
Well, I never felt like I fit in really anywhere, but especially not in the skating world. And I'm not sure if that's because I didn't buy into that toxic environment, or whether, my distancing myself prevented others from welcoming me in. And it's easy for me to look back and understand the times that I might have been bullied, that it was because it was threatening or we had success early on or any of those things. But I was really ostracized. And then I would go home to London, Ontario, and I wouldn't have friends there because I had moved away. And, it's just gearing up to head into the rink, knowing that, I was on my own was a struggle. But everyone faces things like that in moments in their life. And, I'm so lucky that I had people around me, like my mom, who I could talk to and rely on for support.
Yeah, you say everybody faces things like that. The thing about mental illness is the perception that nobody else has it. Nobody else is struggling. Nobody else is lonely. Nobody else feels isolated. Nobody else feels like, oh my God, I can't get out of bed in the morning. The perception is that your neighbor is always perfect in their house. And that obviously is not the case, but the value in speaking about your own struggles, whether it be like in my case, like real mental illness, like depression, or in your case, circumstances in life, which left you feeling in a way that others would never believe that you were feeling. It's just so important. I mean, I just listening to you there, it was like, wow, oh my gosh, how helpful is that to someone who feels like they don't fit in?
Yeah, and there's this idea now, especially with social media, that how people present themselves is, everything you see and it's authentic, and there's so much behind that. It's so layered and nuanced for people, and we're all just looking at life through this unique lens of our own experiences and our histories. And I think we do have to break down those walls and just admit and open up about, those fears that we faced. And as you say, that kind of shatter that idea that people have of you. And I think it's a responsibility, when you're in the public eye as well.
Okay, so we decided because you were going to be on the show that we would try to be different than all the other shows. So last night, after I messaged you, I started going through and looking at YouTube links, and oh my God, the number of Scott and Tessa shows that you were on where you had to play like little games and you had to hold up cards was crazy. So our rules for you start with this one rule. First, no cute intros.
Okay.
We're just waiting to roll it. You want to roll that, Phil? Let's roll that. Yep. Yeah, no problem. You just roll that, Phil, anytime.
I'm Tessa Virtue.
I'm Scott Moyer.
Hi, I'm Tessa Virtue.
And I'm Scott Moyer.
Hi, I'm Tessa Virtue.
And I'm Scott Moyer.
Then, no newlywed game, no how well do you know each other, no internet questions, no making each other laugh, no jam or not jam, don't know what that is, no making shapes, no teaching fitness, no Tessa and Scott read tweets, no, no, no. And finally, thank God, no more of this.
Are you a couple?
That was like, oh my God. The thing is that you would never give on or give off the signal. God, don't ask me that question. Because, I mean, let's face it. I'm sure it was, like the idea that maybe you guys were together. I'm sure it worked out really well for you because that question increased in intrigue around you and focus on you. But God, you never seemed like you were tired of doing all these like really silly things.
I think, I learned that that's a part of people wanting to see personality. And I think sometimes with games like that comes out when you're doing shows. But it's funny to look back on that. And I mean, I appreciate it. Scott and I were always really aware of the fact that the stories we were portraying on the ice would engage people in a unique way. But also we did share something really special and really unique. And far be it from me to sit next to him on a couch and bring him down, or like vice versa by saying, no, we're not together because this and this and this. I think we just always wanted to highlight the things that we adored about one another.
Oh, that's beautiful, man.
Thanks.
That actually is, I never thought of it. I never thought of the concept that, well, maybe it would be disrespectful to the person sitting beside you to go, no, we're not together. I'm assuming you wouldn't have done it like that. All right, I want to introduce you to Chris Wiley. Chris Wiley, meet Tessa Virtue.
Hey, Tessa.
Hi, Chris.
Now it's my turn to sing you my song for you, Tessa.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Tessa, he was Chris was referring to high performance successful athletes and I can't imagine a single sporting event where there would be more intense pressure for a short period of time than figure skating, right? Like you, Tessa, only have, like, your season comes down to essentially, when you're at the very top, like 2 performances, right? At the World Championships or at the Olympics. Before the night before you go on, when you're backstage loosening up, are you thinking good thoughts consciously? Are you afraid of the bad things that could happen? What's going on in your brain?
It's a combination of all of that, Michael. And you're right, that stress and pressure, I mean, it's hard to wish that on anyone because it is intense. And I think, to be fair, if there was an eject button right before the Olympics, so many athletes would choose that. But in a sick way, that's also what we crave. And a big part of our preparation was allowing ourselves to feel all of it, and knowing that the doubt, the fear of failure, the fear of disappointment was part of it. And we had practiced and prepared for that and expected it. I so vividly remember skating by the judges before our short dance thinking, I'm going to fall, I'm going to disappoint Scott, this is not going to go well. I just had a feeling it wasn't going to go well. And when we're panicked, our brain asks questions. And so often we just have to quiet the noise. So I had a mantra that I said, I'm unstoppable, is what I would just keep saying over and over to myself. And it was affirming. And I just tried to, say that to give myself some strength and confidence.
I think it's fascinating what you said, that you were skating by the judges. Now, is this before you actually started your program that you were referring to?
Yes, right. Okay. Before they announced our names.
Okay, so that's amazing, because I have made reference to it in public speaking. People are afraid to public speak almost all across the board. And if you said to somebody, there's a crowd of 20,000 people out there, and all you have to do is walk up to the microphone and say, my name is Tessa Virtue, and then walk back, people would be panicked. Oh my God, I'm going to fall. Well, when was the last time, for instance, in your case, that you just skating around before a performance that you fell? I imagine probably never happens.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we do catastrophize, as you said, and we I think it's that your brain wants to protect itself from any impending pain it might feel, and any ridicule too. We want to sort of hole up and hide from the vulnerability that comes with putting yourself out there.
Here's a question for you, Tessa, that we received from Facebook, I think. How do you keep inspired to reach for new goals? The day-to-day seems to keep me busy, but I'm stressing to find new creative outlets and reaching for my yearly goals.
I think, I struggled with that too, especially following the Pyeongchang Olympics, just finding a new goal to reach for that felt as meaningful or significant. And so I feel like I have categories in my mind, these sort of long-term goals, and whether that's school or job or life related, something that just as an umbrella, blanket issue I can work towards. But then also these monthly, weekly, daily goals of things that ignite some passion, something that is helping others, something that is maybe small and on the scale of things, but makes me feel good or like I said, productive. So I think timing wise, I try and think of short-term and long-term goals as well. And then I'm accountable to someone too. I write them down. I work with a coach, and I try and develop new strategies each day to strive for goals.
You say you work with a coach. What kind of coach?
A mental performance coach. Even still, I took a bit of time off after the Olympics from anything that made me feel like a high-performing athlete, and then realized recently that a huge part of my success had to do with my team, and I needed to feel accountable. I needed to make sure that I was on the right course. And we have coaches for almost everything in our life, right? Any kind of skill we're trying to learn, we have a coach or a tutor. And so why not also for life, even on the emotional side of things?
Right. And is it true that you and Scott went to a marriage counselor to figure out ways, I guess, to exist, like under this microscope for as long as you guys did?
Yes, we did. And I mean, we put such priority on that partnership because that was everything to us. Every bit of our training and competitive success came from the strength of that partnership, and we needed to rely on one another.
I've always wondered, Tessa, to tie what Chris was talking into what you were talking in, the intricacies of what you do. I mean, I don't know if you've ever quantified in a long program or how many different moves that you make. I mean, I don't know what even qualifies as a move, but there's so many of them. And I know you do it over and over again, but is there ever the fear of going, God, what happens if I just momentarily am not sure?
Not so much. I think Scott used to feel that a little bit. So early on, I would learn my steps and his steps. But it's so much, comes down to muscle memory and that repetition. And it's really interesting now because I can remember a dance I did in grade 9 at a competition in North Bay with my high school friends, but I can't remember our Olympic short dance
Really?
that we competed in 2018. I wouldn't even know the first 10 seconds.
And that's from what year are you talking about now?
2018. So that was like the most recent competitive thing that would be in my body. And I mean, I would have no clue.
How about the free skate?
The free dance we did more often, but it would take some time for us to get back into it. I was always so struck by that, and Chris, maybe you can weigh in like why that was in my body for such a long time, so intimately, and then how it was just like I was so dissociated from it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is with memory, it's like long-term memory we store really, really good, like for long periods of time away. But sometimes memory, it's all about re-accessing and retrieving. So sometimes certain memories, for whatever reason, they're hard to consciously retrieve. So a little trick that you can kind of do is try to get yourself back into the exact state you were in when you were performing the routine. So almost in your mind, like if you were to just sit and just think about, go back to that memory in your mind and just remember that first thing you did before you started the routine and just make that image really big and bright, and then step back inside it where you actually like are going back to that moment in your mind where you're looking through your own eyes, hearing what you heard, feeling what you felt. You might actually surprise the heck out of yourself with just how much you can remember. And that's why I kind of got into the hypnosis side and trance side, because our limitations are only in our conscious mind. And when you begin to go into altered states, is you can get back those memories and those learned patterns where, I mean, you obviously mastered them. So I think it would just be a matter of getting back into that state you were in when you performed, and you might surprise the heck out of yourself with how much you can remember. And just so you know, I'm really great with memory, but Tessa, I'm a fantastic skater, not necessarily a figure skater, but I'm strong. And while Sean can only hold you for short periods of time, I'm sure I could hold you for a very long period of time. Sorry, Mike. Michael.
Yeah, that silence was not good for you, Chris. Not good for you at all. You know what was fun? And Tess, thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I'm so appreciative of the work that you continue to do. I mean, you're inspiring and affecting so many, and I hope that's not lost on you.
Yeah, well, one of the things about I'm way better at giving a compliment than taking a compliment, like way better. Like sometimes people go to
I will tell you that.
Sorry?
You're the best compliment giver. You're so incredibly generous.
Well, it's maybe you're one of the rare ones that actually hear it for real. Like you don't know whether I do that all the time or very seldom. It would be less often, perhaps. But having said that, for me, sometimes I'm getting introduced in a speech, which I do a lot of speeches, and people will speak effusively about you, right? Because first of all, they want to justify you on their stage. They brought you in to speak. But more often than not, I'll actually go up and interrupt them while they're introducing me because I'm just horrified at being around. Oh my God, it's like, please insult me. That would be way better.
Right.
Well, let's do a part 2 on this, okay?
I'd love that. Anytime.
Okay. Well, I mean, and Sean Cullen will have to have a fresh song for you. Let's call it right now. Let's say thanks to Jansen. It's a company that said to us, we like your message. Go out there and get your message out there, and that's what we're doing. And as we say so long, we'll see you tomorrow. And here's the second half of Sean Cullen tribute to Tessa Virtue.
But please just think about it. Don't make me scream and shout it, oh, Tessa Virtue. I never would hurt you. You come from London, Ontario, and you might find me scary-o. Don't be afraid. In the future we'll have it made. We'll win every contest. We'll be the best. Oh, how you sparkle. Oh, how you shine. Virtue and Cullen, we could be divine. Oh, Tessa Virtue, I never would hurt you unless I accidentally dropped you. But please don't let that stop you. Okay, Tessa, just think about it. Don't say anything right away. Just think about it.
I'll put some serious thought into that, Sean, and to you,
Have a
Chris.
good day.
Thanks.